Hey, this is Wade from the band Innersiege, and you're rocking out to the Covenant Metal Show.
Hey guys, I am here with Wade Helm, drummer for power metal band Innersiege. Wade, thanks for being on the show, man.
You bet, it's an honor, man. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, absolutely. So we've met a couple of times. We met first time was Immortal Fest last year,
Yes,
and we actually we met in the lobby of the Holiday Inn.
exactly. Breakfast in the lobby.
Breakfast in the lobby. That's it. Yeah, and we met again just a few weeks ago. Really, it seems,
Sure.
and really cool. I enjoyed meeting you, and so you guys have. I'll just brush everybody up here real quick on the history with Inner Siege. You guys have two albums out, and we have this one here, and I'll go ahead and put the album cover up.
Yeah, it was the very end of 2012. I think it was like late December, so might as well call it 2013. But it was technically 2012, but barely. Yeah, I think it was June of 2021. I don't remember the exact date, but sometime in June. Yeah, the first album, Kingdom of Shadows, was recorded at a studio. There's a guy some of your listeners might have heard of. His name's Colt Caparoon. He lives in Nashville now. He has a YouTube page with tons of followers. He used to own a studio here where we live, so we recorded the first album in his studio, and then we sent it off for mixing and mastering with Frederick Nordstrom, who some people might recognize. He's a guitar player for Dream Evil. So we contacted him because we just love the way everything he produces sounds. Because not only is he a member of Dream Evil, but he's a big time metal producer and everything. And he's Swedish, right? Yeah, from Sweden. I think it is Norwegian or Swedish, but he's Swedish. So we contacted him, thought he'll never take us on. He's never heard of us. And he said, yeah, I got some time in whatever month it was. I can mix and master your album. So we worked with him for that on the first one. And the second one, we actually recorded ourselves. We did the drums in Jeremy's living room. Jeremy's our singer. We did most of the guitar solos right here in my basement where I'm at. And then Jeremy did like the vocals and bass tracks and rhythm guitars and all that was done at his house. And then we were gonna pay to have it mixed and mastered again, but really honestly, just couldn't afford it, you know? So we did all the mixing and mastering ourselves as well, which was kudos to Jeremy, our singer, because he basically had to learn all the software, teach himself, watch tons of tutorials. He put hours and hours and hours into that to do the mixing and mastering. Then he'd send out mixes to all of us. We'd listen and, hey, can you tweak this? Can you tweak that? And so yeah, it took us quite a few months just because we did it all ourselves.
Oh wow. So when did Inner Siege start?
That's a
How?
good question. I was trying to think. My memory may be a little rusty. But previously, a few of us were in another band together called Strangeland that kind of predates Inner Siege. So basically, Strangeland Jeremy was in it for a while, Kevin Gross, our guitar player, and myself were all in that band with a couple of different members. And then, some things just changed, and we thought, you know what, since the band's kind of changed and everything, let's just kind of pick a new name and start fresh. So it was probably somewhere around 2008, I'm going to guess, that we became Inner Siege. So, and then our bass player moved here from Norway in 2008, not to join us. He moved here because he had met a girl and came here to marry her. And so we all kind of knew him and got to know him, and he filled in a couple gigs just as a fill-in bass player for us. So one thing leads to another, and he eventually joins the band full time. So the lineup as we know it now was probably solidified somewhere around 2010, maybe, is my guess. I don't remember the exact time frame, but somewhere around there.
Ah, okay. And how did you come up with the name Inner Siege? What does that represent?
Really it's one of those things where we were just, spitballing names, right? It's like everybody go home, write down some names on paper, look on the internet to make sure there's not 12 of them out there already, if you pick a common kind of name. So I don't actually remember who threw out Inner Siege. One of my friends named Dave says he remembers being at our practice and tossing that name out to us. And so kudos to Dave if he's the one that did it. I just don't remember. It's been again, I'm 55, Dave. Memory's getting foggy, right? So trying to remember all these things that happened 10 years ago or more. But yeah, it was just one of those things. We threw a bunch of names out, and that one kind of stuck. And we thought, well, you could almost have a spiritual meaning to that. I think of like the song by Baron Cross, Inner War, right?
Yeah.
So it's like an inner siege, your heart, you have to protect your heart, right? There's like a siege always trying to happen against your heart, and that inner war that we all face and fight. So kind of like, yeah, that name's pretty cool. And nobody had that name. So it's funny though, because every time you search Inner Siege, it's like the movie Under Siege always comes up.
Oh, yeah. Steven Seagal, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. It's always like, are you looking for this? So...
That's funny.
Yeah, when we were called Strangeland, we found out there were about 5 other bands called that. We actually got a letter from a lawyer telling us to cease and desist with that name because there was this other band named Strangeland that was, had a couple albums out with that name, and so.
Well, it was also a movie too.
Yeah, exactly. The Dee Snider movie.
Dee Snider from Twisted Sister. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. That was the first thing popped in my head when you said Strangeland was that movie. So.
Yeah. Well, funny story about that. So back years ago when we were called that, this was probably 2005, 6, 7, somewhere around there. Dee was doing his syndicated, radio show, Hair Nation or whatever it was called.
Yeah.
And so I sent him a letter. We sent him a CD. We just had like a 3-song CD. We never did more than that, but like a 3-song kind of demo CD. We sent that to him and a T-shirt and a letter. And he read my letter on air and said like, hey, thanks for the T-shirt and CD. Wade was like, you'll be hearing from my lawyers. And he was just kidding. But I'm like, hey, Dee read my letter on air. So that was pretty cool.
That is cool.
So I know he's got our
and then he used the name for.
Yeah.
And then he used the name for his movie, no?
Exactly, yeah. I think he was first, but... So somewhere, probably in his attic in a tote, he's got a Strangeland T-shirt, but yeah.
Yeah.
Or he drives his car with it or something, yeah.
Yeah. Now, there was quite a gap, actually, just between Kingdom of Shadows and Fury of Ages. And... Are you cool with, just elaborating on that? Or
yeah, I will say there was a lot that happened in there to lead to that. Just a lot of stuff. So our guitar player, Kevin, was actually working towards going full-time into missions. And so he had to really pull back from the band. 2013 was a super busy year for us. We put the album out end of 2012, and 2013, that was the most we've ever played probably that year. All kinds of festivals all over the place. We played in California and Florida and Nebraska, and we went overseas to Norway and just, Sweden, I'm sorry. Did all kinds of shows, and then things kind of came to a screeching halt because just life, right? We had people changing jobs and things going on, and like I say, Kevin really had to pull back to concentrate on trying to raise the funds for missions and, trying to kind of get away from his job he was in so he could focus on full-time missions, and he was working at a church at the time, and he was going out raising support. And then some things just happened in their life that never came to fruition. They had to kind of back out and not do the missions field. They were going to go to like Switzerland full time. So there was that. We had some other just traumatic things happen in some band members' lives. All kinds of things that just led to just getting delayed. And so finally we got back together. I mean, we never did really take a break, but it was just we weren't always all in practice. It was hard to get everyone together with all these things going on. So finally we got everybody back together, started working on the album, and then it came together fairly quick once we did that. But then it was the learning curve of recording it ourselves. So we probably put, honestly, 2 years into the recording, mastering, mixing, learning all that. So yeah, it was probably, because I think we had the drums done 2 years before the album came out. So
wow.
And it was just slowly piecing it together and building out the studio in Jeremy's basement and everything else. And so yeah, wasn't any reason it took that long on purpose other than just life, And now it's hard to believe 2 years have flown by since 21, and we're in the process right now of writing for the next album.
Nice.
That's all we've been doing the last few weeks is just working on new stuff and fleshing out ideas and trying to get songs together. I'd say we have 3 or 4 in stages of being mostly done, So we're getting there.
So
the other thing was too, after we got the album done, it was like then we had to shop around to find someone to release it because we thought about doing the self-release thing, but we really wanted to get distribution because our first record was on Rocks, and that was a distribution deal. We gave them the complete record, and they just took care of getting it out there everywhere for us and making the CDs. Same thing with this one. We struck a deal with No Dust, which is a record label out in the Netherlands. He really liked what he heard and agreed to put it out for us, and then he handles all the European distributions, and he partners with a record label in the States called Qumran Records. and they did the U.S. distribution side. So we had to work all that out, and then this release we had vinyl, so that took a while. We had to wait for the vinyl to get manufactured. They were way behind because of COVID, getting vinyl printed and everything. So there was just lots of things like that led to it taking a while to get out too, just trying to get the whole record thing secured with distribution.
Yeah. Wow. That's awesome to hear that you guys are working on stuff for the next album, because that makes me excited, because like I said, I've been a fan ever since I heard Children of Winter off of the first album, and it's just amazing. And I forget where you guys are located out of.
We're in the central Illinois area, so if you go to St. Louis or Chicago, either one's sort of equidistant for us. It's about 2.5 hours south to Chicago, 2.5 hours north to Chicago, or to Chicago, St. Louis, 2.5 hours south. Then we're about 3.5 Indianapolis to the east, so that's kind of where we are. So.
Oh wow! So kind of like just a centralized area there. Yeah. So you guys, I'm sure are there plans to do any shows, any big shows, anything like that?
We hope so. I mean, we played a few this year. We had a really cool one back in March. We got to play with White Cross. Got to open for them. It was sort of last minute, because I don't know if you remember what they were supposed to play. I think at the BMI? They had a big show somewhere with like Stephen Piercy, and it got canceled.
Yeah, well, it was at BMI. They were supposed to be.
So we got contacted by Dorn. Dorn got hold of us like a week before and said, "Hey,
he's a huge fan of you guys."
Yeah, Dorn's awesome.
Yeah, he is.
So he got hold of us and said, "Hey, listen, is there any place you guys think we could have a White Cross show?" Because he's like, the singer and Michael had already bought their tickets, airplane tickets. They were already flying to Chicago. They're like, "Can we get a gig scheduled while we're in the area?" So with less than a week to promote it, I think Dorn got hold of our guitar player Thursday night. The concert was the following Friday. So we finally kind of confirmed things late Friday and then started promoting it. And we basically had it at our guitar player's church, but we packed the place. I mean, there was not an empty seat. We probably got 300 people there with only like a week's notice. And so White Cross and Dorn were thrilled, because I think they really thought there's going to be 30 people. This isn't had time to promote it. Nobody's going to come out for it. And I think they were all blown away by the crowd that turned out. But I think, they always talk about the Midwest, likes to rock or whatever. And, I mean, it's true. I mean, all the bands from the 80s come through here and play and get pretty good crowds. I mean, this area just likes their hard rock and heavy metal, which is great. So I think so many people hadn't had a chance to see White Cross in years, probably since the Cornerstone Festival ended. So, people came out in droves for the show, which was great.
Oh, yeah. Well, one thing that I've actually noticed since living in Missouri, I moved here 6 months ago from Arizona, but I've noticed that the Midwest is huge for Christian metal. You don't really, there's nothing really going on in the Southwest or the West Coast, or really there's a little bit in the East Coast, but not much. It's primarily, it seems to be in the Midwest.
Yeah. Well, I will say, I mean, growing up, so, I was in high school from 82 to 86, so sort of like the heyday for Christian metal, right? When it was all coming out and starting. And all those bands came through here. I mean, I saw Exalt and One Bad Pig and Sacred Warrior several times, so they're like Chicago bands, and they're not that far away. Saw White Cross several times. You name it. I mean, Messiah Prophet. I mean, all kinds of bands. Bride. They all kind of came through here and played. But Bride was from Kentucky. White Cross and Sacred Warrior were Chicago. So a lot of those bands were kind of Midwestern too. So that kind of helped. But the Cornerstone Festival was an hour from here. So I mean, that pulled in all the bands. We saw Tourniquet and Believer and The Crucified and Shout and you name it at Cornerstone. So, and then we had a church that was really supportive of Christian hard rock and metal. So our church put on a bunch of shows. So my wife and I hosted, we put the bands up at our house. So we had Guardian stayed with us 2 or 3 times. One Bad Pig stayed with us. Exalt stayed with us. Sacred Warrior. We had all those bands come to our church, which was great. So, there's always been good support for the Christian hard rock metal scene here. I will say not all churches back then were for it, but luckily we had one that was. So
that is cool. Yeah, we need some kind of a revival, resurgence of it. Absolutely, man. And it's that's why I like these festivals like Immortal Fest, because in some cases these guys they're up there in years, and it's like they're not going to be able to do this all too much longer. So it's It's like if you want to see these bands and you've never seen them, you need to you need to get on it and go.
I agree, because Immortal Fest, when I went last year and met you and everything, I mean, it was just like being a 16-year-old kid again, right? It's like I've seen all these bands I grew up on, all these bands that influenced me, bands that were instrumental in my Christian walk and stuff, but I've seen all these bands, and it's like, oh, in one place at one weekend, this is awesome. It was like a little mini cornerstone or something. And like you said, I mean, I kicked myself for not going to that White Cross and Bloodgood show that was there February last year. I really wanted to go.
Yeah.
And then little did we know that Michael would have the stroke a couple days later, and then, so I never have a chance to see Bloodgood again in that context.
I never got to see Bloodgood. I never got to meet Michael, but I've met Les a couple of times, and man, I love that guy. How could there's just something about him? He's one of those people you want to be around him.
Sure.
He just radiates love and kindness and everything. Yeah.
That was the way Michael was. I mean, I of course didn't know him well, but I met him a few times over the years just in passing. But always super down to earth guy, super nice. Always had a smile on his face. He was fun to watch play bass because he just smiled at the whole time and had a good time. I did have the privilege of seeing him quite a few times. I saw him probably 3 or 4 times at Cornerstone and a couple one-off shows here and there. So, but yeah, like you said, it's like I'm at that point. It's like if there's a band anywhere near me, even if it's 3 or 4 hours away, if I really want to see them, I better go, because you don't know how many more chances you're going to have. I mean, you think about Patrick, and it's just like, well, you're never going to see Tourniquet again, and things are, we're not getting any younger, and neither are the guys that we grew up listening to. Right. They've got a few years on us, so.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, one question that I do have, and sometimes I ask people I interview, I'll ask them about their their musical roots, their influences, things like that.
Sure.
So, as a band and you individually, where do you draw musical influences from? Like from what artists, what bands?
Sure, I would say there's some stuff all 5 of us have in common, but then there's some stuff where, we got people with some eclectic taste and some differences. But I would say, at the core, all of us grew up, kind of in the 80s on the metal scene, both Christian and secular. I mean, if you look behind me, I've got Iron Maiden, Power Slave right there, Kiss, Destroyer, a big Kiss poster in the middle. It's hard to see, but that's Striper, the Hell of the Devil up there. I mean, those are probably 3 of the biggest influential bands in my life. First, it was Kiss, because I was a kid in 1977 when they were huge. I was like 9 years old and discovered Kiss. Then Iron Maiden blew me away. The first time I heard them was like 1982, and I was like, what is this? And then all of a sudden, Striper comes out in 84, 85, and I'm like, oh, okay, yeah, this is really cool. So yeah, those 3 bands for me were like probably the biggest influences growing up. But now I'm a musical sponge, man. I ask my wife, I can't get enough. Every night I'm on YouTube searching out new bands or Bandcamp or whatever, following the bunny trail from this band to that band. And, I'm just always looking for new metal bands to listen to. So for me, tons of influences, everything from those classic bands to newer stuff. Well, it's funny I say newer because I've already been around 25 years or whatever, but I love Hammerfall, Dream Evil, Saxon, Firewind, Symphony X, just all that kind of stuff too,
Oh, yeah.
As well as all the obviously classic Christian metal bands and things. But yeah, I'd say so. That's something we all have in common, is a lot of that stuff. But like Kevin, our guitar player, he loves Yngwie, he loves Steve Vai, of course, he loves that kind of stuff. He loves instrumental guitar stuff. Our singer Jeremy, his 2 favorite bands and favorite influences for singers are Jeff Tate and Midnight from Crimson Glory. Now, Robin's the odd cat in our band because he moved here from Norway, and when he was in Norway, he was in a black metal band, Christian black metal band, but he was in Frostharder, which ever look them up, they were pretty big in Norway, and they played all over. He also played in Antester for a while, too.
Wow.
So he moves here from Norway, playing in black metal bands, and hooks up with us, playing more of a power metal style, and he was like, we were too light for him, But it's funny because he's grown to love all that stuff now. It's like he's always sending me a picture of the newest record he bought, and it's the newest Saxon or the newest whatever. And so he's starting to get into a lot of stuff that he just never really listened to back in the day. So, but yeah, he's got really eclectic taste. I mean, of course he likes black metal, but he also likes a lot of 70s hard rock stuff. He loves Uriah Heep. He likes Ted Nugent, And then of course he likes some crazy death metal stuff or whatever. So he's kind of a little bit of everything, but like Motorhead's his all-time favorite band. And then Jerry, our other guitar player, his tastes are real varied too. I mean, he plays in a couple cover bands. So, I mean, he plays everything from Cyndi Lauper to, Megadeth or whatever. But, and then he plays with us. So, yeah, his tastes are kind of all over the place. But at his core, he really loves, kind of like progressive metal stuff. So, I think, yeah, you just throw all that in a blender, and that's kind of how we come out, I guess.
Right on. Very cool. So where do you see Innersiege going forward? What are your goals?
Yeah. Well, I mean, I think realistically, we all know the music business isn't what it was. So in terms of it ever being a career, I don't think that's a possibility. We've all got full-time jobs, families, mortgages, whatever. So we do this because it's a passion and we feel called to do it, but we don't make any money at it. It's never going to sustain us. We could never go on the road, like seriously go on the road. Maybe we could take 2 weeks and go do something and take vacation time to do it and come back or whatever. But so, I mean, we're happy, doing what we can do. Do we like to play more? Sure. I mean, it'd be nice to play more. I will admit it's very difficult for, even though the scene likes heavy metal and the scene around here is pretty open to hard rock and stuff, when you play original heavy metal, it is difficult because we don't do any covers. So they want you to come in and do a 4-hour set, right, at a bar or a club or something. If we don't do that, we do an hour and 15 or whatever, hour and 45 if we really stretch it. So we always have to kind of get other bands to play with us and try and do like multiple band things with 3 or 4 groups and, kind of share the take and all that at the end of the night. So, we get gigs, but we don't get as many gigs as obviously like the cover bands and things. So that makes it kind of a struggle. So it's weird because since COVID, because we didn't play at all in we did play in 20 prior to COVID. Then when COVID hit, we didn't play the rest of 20. I don't think we played until like the tail end of 21. And then we played a little bit more in 22 and a little bit more this year. But it's funny because most of the gigs we played have been like Chicago, not here. So we've been up to Chicago quite a few times because there's a lot more opportunities there to play. There's a lot more metal bands so we can hop on with other bands. And our label is based out of Chicago. So if you've heard the band Sacred Dawn ever, their guitar player, Lothar, is the president of the record label. So he's got us some gigs up there. We've played 2 or 3 times at like little mini fests up in Chicago. We played like Reggie's, which is like kind of a famous rock club there, and a place called the Metal Monkey and some things like that. So yeah, for us it's kind of like, unless we want to wear our welcome at the same 3 places around here, we kind of have to travel to play,
Awesome. So where can people go to connect with Innersiege and, you have socials, website, things like that?
Sure, yeah, we got the typical socials. We have an Instagram, we have a Facebook, we have a YouTube channel, which is just Innersiege Metal. And all of us as band members are online, so you can find us on there. We're all pretty active on there, I don't post a ton, but when I do, it's pretty much nothing but music stuff. So, and we're all willing to talk to people. We love talking to people, that's the reason we do this. And, that's one thing I'll say about our band, because I know there's bands that are maybe a little bit more preachy than us or whatever, but we've done that. I mean, we did that at Strangeland. We purposely, when we started Innersiege and started out fresh, said, okay, we want to be, the best band we can musically, visually, sonically, so people will listen, We want to present a quality package to make people take notice so they will hear what we're trying to say. And our thing is really trying to connect with people when we play shows. We will always talk to people. We'll go hang out at our booth. We'll help the other bands load in and load out. So we've struck up some really good friendships with a lot of the bands around here. People that come from different walks of life that maybe, wouldn't necessarily want to play with us or whatever, but they do because, I think we've shown that, hey, we're just out here doing what you're doing. We're trying to love on the bands when we play with them and stuff. So that's really our ministry, is to try and let the music draw them, and then, we want to get to know them one-on-one and talk with them. And we've got into some deep spiritual conversations in the middle of a bar, because somebody will ask us, hey, what was that song about? Or, somebody asks Kevin, our guitar player, why do you have that tattoo of a dove on your forearm, And so he'll say, well, you want to know about my tattoo? And he'll tell him what it means, and he'll talk to him about it. And so, yeah, I think some of the best ministry we've had is in odd places. I think of the Sacred Warrior song, we minister by night, taking the word to places you would not go, that's what we try and do. So, none of us in the band are preachers per se, but yeah, we feel called to kind of build relationships with people, get to know them, rub shoulders with them, and then let our light shine, let our my light shine before them, let our lifestyle speak, that kind of thing. So
very cool. That is awesome, man. That is really good. And I'm glad that there's bands like you guys out there doing that. And Wade, I appreciate you taking the time out to be on the show, man. I really appreciate that, and it means a lot
Sure.
to me. And can't wait till the next time when we can see each other, man.
yeah, about 2 weeks now, or 2.5, whatever it is. Be short now.
Yeah, it's gonna be awesome, man. And
I'm really looking forward
we
to
need
it.
another picture. I don't think we got a picture last time.
I know, right? I mean, I think I got one from the hotel last year, but yeah. Let's talk more this time, because I felt like I was like here, there, and everywhere at this last Memorial Fest, so we got to make some more time to talk.
Absolutely, man. Well, hey, again, thanks, and you take care, brother, and I'll see you soon, man.
All right, thanks, Dave. Appreciate it.
All right.